He's not a guy that will off-race as Protoss and have one gimmick or one thing he does. Instead, he's got a big range of stuff he could do. So it's going to be real tough, I think, for ByuN to go in here and take it. But again, if he's got a few tricks up his sleeve, I think it's certainly possible.
You're absolutely right, as we are loading into the first game of this best-of-3 series. It looks like we are indeed on the map Torches. And spawning right here in the bottom right, playing with Terran, we have ByuN. A previous world champion of StarCraft 2, of course, back in 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
And in the top right, normally a Terran player, but now playing Protoss from France, is Clem. Of course, winning last year in 2024, here to do it again in 2025, and we've already got some craziness going. So this is a proxied barracks by ByuN. Now, it's on the other side of the gold mineral patches. We've had a lot of interesting cheeses where we have proxy stuff set up on the other side and you use workers to mine through, but this is, you know, it's such a dirty cheese. I'm so curious to see how effective this is going to be. I
think it's really clever, because if you let Clem just do his own game, he's actually very dangerous. I think Clem's Protoss versus Terran is rivaling that of, for example, Hero, for example, MaxPax. His PvT is excellent. But, of course, he doesn't have this, like, broad knowledge that a lot of those other Protoss players have, just because he hasn't been playing Protoss for as long. So throwing a curveball like this may just be able to catch him off guard. Now, this is weird. Why in the world would that... Even you just chose it. Why in the world would that SUV be carrying golden minerals?
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, and even coming from the trajectory as well. Yeah, you immediately know. I think it was unwise for him to actually grab the gold minerals, because that kind of telegraphs what's going on. He's clearly been in that spot over there. We'll see if Clem can brace for impact. This is off of a proxied eBay to block where the Nexus would go. Keep in mind, this isn't like a full-on all-in. It's not like he had several barracks over here or anything to try to snowball the fight. Instead, it's going to be one Reaper coming in here now. The Stalker halfway complete.
Yep, and this is exactly that scary moment, right? It's only a single Reaper. That barracks is going to have to go back home. And so far, perfect control right there from Clem, as we have come to expect, losing absolutely nothing.
So, for now, yeah, I mean, you know, one of these, you know, proxy and like this, it could be a double-edged sword, because if you don't get that much done, well, then you have infrastructure that's on the wrong side of the map. So, a second Reaper comes out, but he's going to have to bail with this, and what looked like it could be an explosive and exciting start is already looking like ByuN here in a disadvantage.
Yep, this is excellent right here for Clem. He did lose, apparently. I think that must have been the scouting workers there, but now the barracks is going to have to go back home, and that means that the factory has to be building its own add-on. If I'm not mistaken, that was a reactor, yeah. So we got to try, or sorry, a tech lab, of course, so we can try and transition here into a cyclone. Very important for ByuN to get it out, but he has put himself a little bit behind because of it, and this is going to give Clem all the time in the world to transition to whatever he likes.
So now Clem going to put a little bit of pressure on here. The Zealot can basically never fight the Reaper. The Stalker's obviously going to be stronger, so he has to play keep away with that. Almost, I thought for a second he was going to push the Stalker into that of the Reaper, get the kill, but he takes it out with the Adept right at the start. And, you know, I got to say, Clem, usually when you get proxied and have to deal with some kind of rush, there's some kind of compensation that has to be made on the defender's end to keep things going. I don't know if that's the case in this game this time around.
Nope, I think Clem is totally fine. He's transitioning into Blink Stalkers. He loves those units. Rarely do we see him opening up Stargate in this matchup. It looks like he's going to follow it up with a Robo too, so Blink Stalker into Colossus will be more than likely here for the Frenchman. But so far, I think this is exactly the start that Clem is looking for. Right now, ByuN is going to be forced to at least relax a little bit, right? Like, he may move out with a drop or two, he may send some units across the map, but ByuN has slowed himself down just a few seconds here and there, and it is going to give Clem quite a bit of wiggle room, but of course these sort of medevacs drops are still scary. He needs to make sure, though, that he does not overstay his welcome, because Blink is really not far off.
Yeah, and Blink can punish this very strongly. So the Cyclones are going to come up here. Going to go for a Worker and a Stalker. He can basically press forward, but you got to be careful not to overextend. The Stalker stays alive. The medevac is going to be boosted away pretty perfectly there from ByuN. He gets 2 probes, but, you know, it's not enough right now for what he needs.
Okay, in the meantime, there is an Adept on the other side of the map as well, just mostly used for scouting. Would not be surprised if we're going to be seeing a third Nexus here in a moment as well. How many gateways does Clem actually have at this point? He's on just 2. Yeah, so he will very likely be expanding in just a second.
Yeah, unless he decides to be like maybe more aggro here. He does like to do these kind of moves over here. So the attack comes in, and I think there's not quite enough SCVs, and so that tank is going to go down. The Stalker's coming, and they actually blink underneath the medevac. An interesting exchange here. It seems like the Stalkers are going to be driven away, leaving 3. Yeah, Clem, it's funny, he likes to be very aggro with his Stalkers a lot. We've seen many games where he blinks into the natural, tries to snipe a tank or maybe even a bunker if he's got the momentum on his side. And he's going to just stay on the outside, maybe try to blink it again.
We got a little bit of first-person view here from Clem, who's following this up with even more gateways, Tasteless. So he is not done whatsoever. He did lose a few Stalkers just now, though. You need to be very careful. Those Cyclones are not to be underestimated. And that micro, of course, there. Oh my god, he's adding on even more. Are we going like... How many is that? Like 8 in total now? Are we going like an 8 or a 7 gate all in?
So I've seen some of it. It's very unusual. It's kind of counter what we would expect is textbook. And so he will take a third eventually, but the idea is he front loads the gateways. And a lot of times Terrans, they tend to push out around when that third is started. And you can basically clobber the Terran here. So, you know, the Stalkers are going to come out at a rate that's a little bit unusual. And, you know, ByuN, who might be trying to go with a normal ebb and flow of a TVP, could get punished.
Yeah, it's a difficult map to push on, though. Like, how in the world do you engage here in that natural expansion? He did go for charge, and he did go for the storm. I'm mostly concerned. Can he catch this? Nope. Medevac does get away for now.
Looks like he noticed just not in time. Little loopy-loop there from ByuN. He's going to go back here through the bottom. As we get in further along into this game, we want to watch really carefully and see if the Terran overextends, because if the Terran is going to smash the Protoss, you don't want to be hemorrhaging units here and there.
Yeah, I'm mostly concerned here for the economy that Clem has. Usually at this point in a Protoss versus Terran, Protoss is already a little further ahead. And at this point, ByuN is starting to outgrow the opponent a bit, but we do, of course, have that very quick storm, and well, we already saw that earlier today as well. It looks like one of the units ended up going down.
You know, it does seem... Yeah, I think we just barely...
He's not happy about that at all.
Yeah, I think we
it's
just
an
saw...
I was going to say that looked like an immortal, but he must have accidentally rallied that across the map. This is when that little voice in your head, though, here, as Clem starts talking to you, too. Maybe I should have been playing Terran instead. Looks like we are going for the High Templar snipe. At least there's not going to be Storm now on all of them, because one of them was morphed into an Archon.
Forcing that Archon is big. A nice Storm over here. It's all going to be about how much Storm damage the Terran absorb here, and that was quite a bit. The Zealots are going to come down onto that tank. This push has been shut down. The Stalker's going for even more damage. He ends up getting everything but one medevac. ByuN frustrated in that moment. I think especially when he forced the Archon with the Cyclones coming in there, I thought he'd be able to do a lot more, but Clem immediately able to just handle that engagement. And now the counterplay is going to come in here. I don't see enough to actually repair this bunker. He blinks away with a perfect dodge. The War Prism comes in here with a Warp in, and it's just SCVs. I think this game might be over. Yeah,
that medevac drop, though, it did sneak towards the left and has now arrived over at the third base, as you can see in the picture-in-picture. Still, though, Clem is going to continue the aggression and blinks into the main base.
Whew, that
was sick.
That was a wild endgame there. You could see it was a little crazy for both of them. We caught the tail end of it, but Clem lost the spotter outside of his base. He said it might have been an immortal even rallied there.
I think he believed that he sniped the full medevac, so he just sort of considered that the push to the third base there wasn't even a possibility. And keep in mind, he even had a misrallied immortal here. So this was for at least Clem's standards, which admittedly are very high. This was still a relatively messy game, I think, from him, and the fact that he still actually gets the job done here is kind of crazy.
He certainly seems to know when the Terran is weak, right? He knew that not only could he shut down the push, but he can follow it up with potentially a game-ending counterattack. You know, when you lose those tanks in the push, and it's pretty hard to get away with the tanks if you don't put them in medevacs, suddenly you don't have a whole lot to protect that position. Now, Clem knows he's just one win away from advancing to the next moment here, but that was a bumpy game. Let's also give ByuN some credit here. He opened up with the proxy racks that did virtually nothing. And so, you know, that's where the double-edged sword of the proxy comes into play, right? I mean, if you don't get a lot done, I think a lot of times we think of it from the defender's advantage, but the reality is your barracks is on the other side of the map. You're not making a lot of the units you need out of that would help you into that mid-game push. And so I'm curious to see what kind of opening we're going to see here from ByuN. Clem, of course, having an incredible range here as well. When it comes to Protoss play, he's not defined as necessarily aggressive or defensive. He's really almost like a Zerg player who's very reactive. He kind of scouts, sees what you've got, and then deals with it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I haven't really seen him play a lot of Stargate openers in this matchup. I would really like to see some of that, although it feels very far, like especially like a Phoenix build, it feels very far from what Terrans are used to. But, you know, there's a lot of overlap, right, between the ways that you like micro Stalkers and Prisms compared to, like, for example, Medivacs and Marines and Marauders. It's a lot of activity out on the map, whereas something like a Stargate opener, which is not entirely uncommon in this matchup, it's very different. It micros entirely differently. But either way, we are now on a map called Persephone, and spawning right here in the bottom left-hand corner, we have ByuN.
And his opponent here in the top left in the blue from France, it is Clem. Last year's Esports World Cup champion here with a very decisive victory versus Cyril. Looking strong today. Similar themes in game 2. I guess, you know, it's going to be a different build. The ingredients a little bit different here. A double Rax.
It's so funny because in the series that we've seen ByuN play today, when he falls behind and he loses the first map of a best of 3, he switches it up and goes for a cheese in game 2. It feels very counterintuitive, you know what I mean? When you're behind and you're like, okay, well, I guess we gamble. Let's bring out the coin flip. It's very risky here, but of course, Clem is looking around. He sees that a gas geyser is taken. At the very least, that will give him some info. But you never know whether or not there's like a second barracks out, whether it's just going to be a single one. It's, ByuN. I think in hindsight, he should not have gone for that. Lose a little bit of money.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty big deal. When you got the very best in the world, if you can bait them into attacking you, every resource is going to be returned a little bit later. Obviously, from Clem's perspective, not seeing barracks inside the main tells you all that you need to know. There is hidden Raxes, in this case 2, on the map. You know, this is Reapers again. It's more barracks. But the barracks
he does it a second time.
I can't believe he keeps doing that. And I do feel as though ByuN, the nerves are really kicking in.
That's big, though. Like, that is... He finally wants to get it, but okay. Well, he snipes it, but he lost way more than the minerals that he gained there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's some closure there to that nightmare part of the early game, but, you know, he's going to have Reapers coming out on the map. It's going to be up to Clem to play a defensive game. More Reapers this time, but obviously further away than in game 1. And, yeah, I mean, I guess the most mystifying thing to me about this game is just how many times we saw the SCV pull there from ByuN. Unusual at this level of play.
So far, the Reapers haven't really done anything yet, right? I mean, ByuN is going to be able to get that mule mining going now, so economically he will be okay. But he made all these Reapers, now finally they spring into motion, but there's not like a quick factory on the back of this. He can obviously join them up with like Hellions later on if he wants to, but those Reapers are, generally speaking, worse the longer that the game goes on for, right? And, well, maybe they can somehow pass each other by here in the middle of the map. That's probably the luckiest thing there that ByuN could have had. He doesn't even know. But he's going to find the base mostly unprotected.
Yeah, he's going to try to close it on this Stalker. We don't have the Protoss trainer. Oh my god, he gets to the battery just in time. The 3 Reapers are going to go into the main, but we've got a big attack down here in the south.
Yeah, in the meantime, in the natural expansion of ByuN, there's a lot of units there too, and the command center gets delayed. The bunker looks like it's going to get sniped as well. This is an eye for an eye, but I think the higher that Clem is getting is way better because the bunker is gone. And if he can force a council on this command center, that would be absolutely massive. So far, ByuN just can't really get his feet under him.
Yeah, I mean, forcing a cancel here, I'm not going to say it's fatal, but it's hard to see a trajectory where Terran can make it through the rest of the game. The command center's in the low. You can see Clem just scurrying a little bit back here in case there's something to close in on it. It's canceled. We have another command center made in the main, but
supply block here as well because of it, by the way. Like he relied on that command center finishing up, so ByuN is slowly falling apart. He does have a supply depot finishing now, but the clock is ticking. Clem is getting the Blink Stalkers going once again. They're about a quarter of the way done, right? That upgrade that is. He's going to continue the dance for the time being, though, even though this is usually a little unheard of. He's got the numbers.
Yeah, he's almost going to be able to force his way up here.
Yeah, risky.
You can see the difference in intensity. Next to the APM monitor, we have the heart rate monitor here. Clem at a heart rate of 87 compared to ByuN at 131.
He's relaxed.
Yeah, I mean, Clem completely in a relaxed state, basically trying to gauge how to navigate the rest of his game. ByuN, look, if he loses here, he's going to lose this best of 3. It is a game that is maybe going to be one of the hardest ones in his entire career. Playing from behind versus Clem. You know, not only is Clem one of the best Protoss versus Terran players, even though his main race is Terran, there's not that many games of him out there compared to other players that would main with that race, right?
It's actually kind of weird too, right? Like, you know, losing is never something you want as a competitor, but I feel like when you lose against your opponent's off race,
yeah,
it's just like a little bit more painful.
Something feels very wrong about it. All these pros can play all the races on some level, but
yes.
I mean, this is really historic here that we're seeing Clem choose Protoss at the Esports World Cup here, and making it work right now.
Now, I like this here from ByuN, though. So ByuN basically fell behind. Is like, okay, you know what? I am in a very rough position. I'll just add on 2 command centers at the same time. The problem becomes those Stalkers. Clem is ready for a push once again. He's once more not going for a super fast third. How much damage can he deal right over here?
I mean, there's nothing in the main to protect this. It's going to be a lot of kills on all the workers. Oh, maybe he's just going to go for the tech lab.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. It's not even upgrading stem, but I guess you might as well take it out and delay that even further here. He's actually able to keep most of these Stalkers here in the back, doing damage to the factory. You know, normally you need about 3 tanks to keep Stalkers from doing this. There's only 1 right now. And I mean, he's going to take out the Cyclone. He can basically take advantage of this surface area. Remember, there's no medevac here. So the Marines can't heal. Any damage on them is basically permanent.
That was great work right there by Clem. Even though he didn't really kill anything super critical, he still got some value, right? And that is Clem in a nutshell. He will always continue doing things when he has the APM available. Even though that didn't really hurt the Terran too much. It's just a little bit of frustration and a very small advantage. Now, what I really like here from Clem, though, is that across the board, he seems to be prioritizing tech over expansions. I feel like over the last year, we've been seeing Protoss players go for faster third next side than this. We do have the Reapers going in. Finally, ByuN getting a little bit of counter damage done. So far, he hasn't really been able to achieve much, but now by the time that ByuN can actually go for a push, because the third has been delayed in favor of faster tech, we're gonna get Storm again. And how do you do any all-in? I mean, we've seen a lot of 2-base all-ins lately. How can you do a 2-base all-in against somebody that has Storm?
I think it's why it's so popular. I mean, as an example, you look at Classic, who likes to do this just on 2 bases, just because it simplifies the mid-game so much. But we've got Clem on an operational 3 bases. Medevacs are going to go out. I think he could run into this.
The Stalkers are here. He has a Zealot on the side. There's no way.
It's perfectly through the blind spot. I think the Zealot may have seen the flicker.
That was so close. I mean, ByuN doesn't even know how lucky he got there. If he would have gotten blinked on and he loses 2 medevacs full of units, that would be an absolute disaster. Now maybe he's got an opportunity, but keep in mind there are High Templar at home to defend against this, and it's not like ByuN doesn't usually go for drop play. Great movement there on the probes as well. Now the reinforcements are coming in. Here's the Prism with the High Templar. Boom, he sees exactly what he's playing against right now as well. Clem is actually so freaking good at playing Protoss.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Now we have the medevacs stuck in the top left. I mean, there's a way they could get out. They might take some more damage. We don't have a 3rd base here for Terran. There's a lot of factors here that are just adding up to Protoss being further ahead. It looks like the 3rd command center is going to try to glide out over there further to the right, adjacent to the 2nd base. I do feel like we will see Clem wind up with a big attack. And I think that's actually going to happen right now.
Yeah, he does decide to push in. Charge is available. He needs to go through the choke point. There's just not enough units available here, though, for ByuN. It looks like as we have the Storms landing on whatever Clem can really aim his Storm on right now. It's because, though, there is still a medevac drop available. Those were hiding in the top left-hand corner. But, I mean, you may be able to deal some damage to the Protoss' main. If you lose the entire natural, it is not worth it at all. And honestly, Clem making it look easy here in his first best of 3 of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very decisive win, very clean. You know, you could see ByuN didn't have a whole lot of solutions as far as what he needed to do. Try to do something to come in there and do a little bit of damage early on. It didn't work out. In fact, in a lot of ways, it backfired. Clem really seized that moment, came in there, punished, and closed it out, 2-0.
Absolutely. And you can tell here that Clem plays it very similar to the way that he plays Terran too, right? Like he grabs a small advantage and then he builds on top of it. Like he layers the aggression up, and it's extremely similar to the way that he likes to play that Terran bio approach as well. Honestly, a phenomenal series right there by the world champion. And we had a couple of sloppy moments, I guess, in game number 1 with the Immortal getting misrallied, but I mean, he still made that one work. I think across the board, that was what Clem would probably consider a nice warm-up.
Yeah, Clem really making history. Off racing versus Terran, doing an incredible job, making it work. I don't know who's going to be able to stop him in this matchup.
All right, well, let's hear from the man himself on the stage.